couldn't possibly recognize. NBC's Charles Hadlock now with one family picking up the pieces of their life.
Gene and Jill McIntosh are seeing their neighborhood for the first time since Friday night's tornado. Nothing looks familiar.
You don't recognize it. I mean, I'm trying to think, what was here on this corner? Oh, it was a big, beautiful house that had flowers everywhere.
Like the rest of Greensburg, it's all gone now. There isn't a home left untouched. Gene is a church pastor and wonders what's happened to everyone he knows.
That's the trouble. You don't know where are they?
Their street is eerily vacant.
Here's our house.
Oh, good Lord. Look at.
And we were in the basement.
Their two-story home was ripped open, the sides of the house peeled away.
I thought parts of the house were ripping off, it sounded like.
But unlike other homes on their street, theirs is still standing, sort of. Family treasures can still be found.
Keep your eyes open for a wedding ring.
Oh, there's your Manning shirt.
Daughter Katerina found something unexpected.
I heard the little kitten meowing over here under lots of rubble. Pulled up a few things and there she was. I've never seen her before.
She says she'll name the kitten Twister. After surveying his home, Gene McIntosh went to see what was left of his church. He had trouble finding his way. The tall landmark steeple he's used to seeing is missing. The church is battered. The pews are filled with debris instead of people.
The cross is right here. Oh. Oh. It's just painful.
McIntosh says it's the memories made in this church, the weddings, the funerals, the celebrations, the basics of small-town life that he'll miss the most. McIntosh confidently says his church will rebuild. The question is, how will the rest of Greensburg? Lester?
Charles Hadlock. Charles.
An unusual time capsule in the form of a 1957 Plymouth Belvedere was buried in Tulsa a half a century ago with instructions to dig it up 50 years in the future. Well, the future is now, and NBC's Charles Hadlock tells us what they uncovered.
On a day like today.
It was a classic car given a classic send-off. The year was 1957. The people of Tulsa buried a time capsule in the form of a 57 Plymouth Belvedere. The instructions were to dig it up in 50 years. That time is now.
For the first time in 50 years!
Seeing the car rise from its concrete vault brought back a flood of memories for Cheryl Forrest.
This is me.
And this is you.
She and Debbie Cardover had their picture taken on the hood of the shiny new Belvedere, just like this one on display at a Tulsa car show.
Look at the gold trim.
I know.
They can't wait to see the Belvedere unveiled.
Absolutely.
Every day we've thought about it.
The buried car is full of old memories and mementos, and something in the glove box that's special to Nancy Lawson.
I was a new bride at that time, so it's a picture of me in my wedding dress.
Apparently, few people in 1957 believed that cars would still be used for transportation in 2007. It was the dawn of the space age, after all. They thought we'd all be flying around in jetpacks by now. No one thought that cars would be as popular now as they were back then. Stuffed in the trunk were 10 gallons of gasoline, in case that was obsolete by now as well. It turns out it won't be needed. The classic car is rusty, fin to fin.
I'm sad, but you know, that's the way it goes.
My broken hearted.
But memories that the old Belvedere transported through time are priceless. For today, Charles Hadlock, NBC News, Tulsa.
And now here's Lester.
Nothing a good wash and wax can't cure. Amy, thanks. Some cities have.
Now they're in danger of disappearing, leaving smaller communities wondering who will answer when they call for help. Here's NBC's Charles Hadlock.
In most big cities, An ambulance with full-time paramedics is only minutes away,
Blood sugar on him is 150 and we'll be there in about 10 minutes.
providing life-saving care during what is usually a short trip to the hospital. But in rural America, in towns like Garber, Oklahoma, the only ambulance for miles around sits parked in a dusty barn.
I wonder how many miles on this thing now, Sam?
This second-hand ambulance hasn't made a call in nearly a year, but not because it isn't needed.
They're worth so much to a small town.
Like a lot of other small towns in America, Garber has had to park its ambulance because there are no volunteers to drive it or treat patients.
Older people need ambulances more often, but there aren't as many young people to work on the ambulances as there used to be.
It's not just an Oklahoma problem, it's nationwide.
The town of Medford still has a volunteer ambulance service, but it covers 630 square miles.
I know this community.
Omalie Rogers teaches 3rd grade when she's not responding to car wrecks and heart attacks.
I volunteer primarily for me because I enjoy it so much.
There are not enough volunteers like her in other small communities, towns like Waukeeta.
It looks to hit Waukeeta head on.
Made famous in the movie Twister, where the town's volunteer ambulance made a cameo appearance. But now this town faces a real-life health crisis. Like dozens of small towns across the Great Plains, Waukeeta, population 300, has lost its only ambulance service.
It's kind of scary in a sense.
Rodney Rapp worries what would happen if an accident happened on his farm.
Time is precious.
And time is running out. Shifting demographics mean rural America is getting older with even fewer volunteers.
See if it starts.
But the town of Garber may be in luck. 19-year-old Sam Strecker just passed his state certification. He's volunteered to be the town's first responder.
I'm doing it to help out the town I grew up in.
A town that's safer now with its ambulance service than without it. Charles Hadlock, NBC News, Garber, Oklahoma. In northern Mexico, just south of El Paso, the alfalfa fields have come alive. Harvesting the crop provides one of the few jobs in the rural areas away from the city of Juarez.
Estas tierras eran muy buenas tierras.
This is fertile land, says Victorio Torres, who farms a neighboring wheat field.
Que esa es una salvación para
This crop is our salvation.
Hace 10 días cayó un aguacero.
In this desert, nothing grows without water. The last good season of rain, Torres says, was 6 years ago. Mexico may be in its worst drought ever. So there is something strange about seeing crops harvested where there has been so little rain. After so many years of drought, the irrigation pumps have long since run dry. So farmers in northern Mexico have turned to another unlikely source of water. It's called Aguas Negras, the black water. It's sewage from the maquiladoras, the factories in Juarez. Every week, Victorio Torres turns a crank and floods his fields with the smelly mess. At night, he says, it smells worse. What it does to his crop has a more lasting effect.
Muy pequeña espiga y el granito muy pequeño también.
The wheat should be double this size, he says, but with this water, it burns the crop and stops growth. The sewage canals have become the farmer's lifeline. We all use the black water, says Alejandro Gonzalez, who's careful about where he steps. Even if you don't step in it, he says, you get sick breathing it. I can't grow lettuce or tomatoes or cantaloupes anymore because the water would just turn them black. Cattle, too, are suffering. Every day, all day long, Macedonio Andrade delivers fresh water to the 500 head of thirsty cattle. But there is not enough water to go around. He's had to cut his herd by half. In a normal year, Mexico exports more than 1 million steers to the United States. Since the drought, exports have declined 20%. The numbers seem more real in Mexico, where the long, hard drought has dropped cows in their tracks. 10,000 have died this year.
Ahorita no hay mucho pasto, no ha llovido, o sea, carecemos de agua.
The pastures are dry and nothing is coming from the sky, says Octavio Marquez, whose ranch hands are steering his cattle to the only source of water, the black water, the sewage from Juarez. As one farmer here said, sure, we'd all like to use fresh water, but where are we going to find it? In northern Mexico, Charles Hadlock, 11 Up Close.